your kids.
Hola, ni hao, konnichiwa, assalamu alaikum, shalom, mahaba, ciao, bonjour, namaste, jumbo, bienvenidos. Hey, my name is Jed Lee. I am so happy to welcome you to Reading with Your Kids. We're coming to you from the beautiful, wonderful, and oh-so historical neighborhood of Reedville, located in the southwest corner of Boston, Massachusetts. We are so very honored and so happy that you're joining us in our mission to help all families grow closer through reading. We do that by sharing fun, thoughtful, and thought-provoking conversations with amazing and fascinating people who just happen to be writing books for kids of all ages. Please be sure to tell all of your family and friends about the show and let them know they can hear us on the WREB AM/FM 24/7 radio network. And they can find us on the iHeartRadio app, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, Podknife, Good Pods, wherever you find your favorite shows. We have 3 amazing guests for you today. First up, 2 of our favorite guests, Scott Rothman and Pete Oswald. They're here to celebrate Bubblegum Bison Needs a Bath. And later on in the show, we meet Courtney Cino, who'll be here to celebrate the lights that stay. An ancient prophecy, a giant quest, a plethora of hominins. 13-year-old Toby Baxter is in a foul mood, stuck in the middle seat on an 8-hour flight with mice and men as his only company. But everything changes when he's summoned back to River Home. Now he's in the middle of a giant uprising linked to his former arch-nemesis, Clygon. Toby must repair the sword, the lifeblood of River Home. Battling rebel giants, trolls, and a primeval snake, Toby's vacation becomes an epic adventure. Will his foul mood sidetrack him, or will he embrace his call to be a hero? Filled with humor, tongue-in-cheek dialogue, and heroic life lessons, Aloha, River Home, The Good Prophecy is a magical journey for middle schoolers and fantasy lovers alike. Dive into the latest quest in the adventures of Toby Baxter, book 3, written by Tim Wright. It's now available. Grab your copy and embark on a mesmerizing adventure today. Visit your favorite bookstore or order online. Don't miss out on Toby Baxter's next thrilling adventure.
Hi friends, I'm Rilla B. And I don't know about you, but I love riddles, books, and moving around. If you love those things too, then you should definitely check out Reading with Rilla B, where we have amazing authors come and share their stories with us. And then, if you like to actually see the book yourself, you can go to YouTube and watch the read-alouds too. So definitely check out Reading with Rilla B anywhere that you stream your podcast, or Rilla B Books on YouTube. See you there. Toodles!
Hey friends, are you looking for the perfect family read for the Summer Olympics? In Takedown by Laura Chauvin, Lev is determined to compete at the state wrestling championships. But then he's paired with a new partner, a girl. Lev and Michaela push each other to excel, but when they meet on the mat, only one can win. Takedown is a multiple award-winning and state list-nominated middle grade novel about families, friendship, and hard work. Get your copy today at bookshop.org or check out the free educator's guide at laurachauvin.com. My friends, buckle up your seatbelts. We're in for a fun ride. Joining us once again, Scott Rothman, Pete Oswald. They're here to celebrate Bubblegum Bison Needs a Bath. Pete, how are you?
I'm doing well, Jed. How are you? Thank you for having us.
I am wonderful. I always have fun with you and Scott. Scott, how are you?
I'm great. Couldn't be better.
Awesome.
Thanks for having us again.
You are welcome. Now, Scott is the author in this tag team duo, and Pete is the illustrator. Scott, can you start off by telling us all about Bubblegum Bison and why does he need a bath?
Yes. I will not spoil why she needs a bath, although I will say she was having a lot of fun with her friends at the playground, like many of us are wont to do. But this is a sequel to Pete and I's other book, Blue Bison Needs a Haircut. And this time, Bubblegum Bison is the star. This is Blue Bison's little sister, and she appears in the first book, but this is her breakout starring role. And she's pink, and she's precocious, and she's hilarious. And she gets very dirty, as we were talking about before. But she doesn't want to take a bath in this book, even though she needs to. But when she realizes she has to, like, unfortunately, this happens to all of us, she's ready to take a bath, but mysteriously there's no water anymore in the entire town. So she has to figure out why that is and solve the problem all by herself. So, and I think it's really fun. And if you're fans of either Pete or I or our work together, I think you're going to really like this one.
Now, Pete, if I remember right, Blue Bison Needs a Haircut was kind of inspired by just you throwing out that phrase, right?
Yeah, I did a original painting at one point, not even thinking about, a story or anything. I think I may have posted it to Instagram, and then Scott was like, "This is an awesome idea. Let's make a book about that." And I was like, "I don't. What's the idea? It's a blue bison." He's like, "I got it." And then he came back a couple days later and with this incredible manuscript, and that is Scott's superpower for sure. Like he sees like one image and can create a whole universe out of this thing. And then, Bubblegum Bison was just, kind of a side character in the original book. And now she gets the limelight.
Gets the starring role.
Yeah.
How much fun is it for you to illustrate a book like this?
It's incredibly fun because the way Scott writes is super visual, and he always leads with comedy. And then it has, a lot of heart to it as well. So, whenever I read his manuscripts, it's set up really, really nicely for a comedic illustration. And to me, that's like the magic of picture books is when you have great words, and then an illustration, and the two of them together, when they combine, that creates magic for picture books for me, and that's why I love collaborating with Scott.
Yeah. Scott, the collaboration process for picture books, it's still something that kind of baffles me because it's such a drawn out process. It takes so long. Do you sit down and bang out that manuscript and get it to your editor, get it to Pete, and then you just have to sit and wait? And I can't wait to see these illustrations, but boy, I have to wait to see these illustrations.
Yeah, I think that's more or less the process, for good or for bad. I mean, it's not as stressful these days. I got lucky that the first illustrator they ever paired me with was Pete Oswald. So
for the Underwear Dragon, right?
Yeah, Attack of the Underwear Dragon. So Pete and I have now known each other for, I don't know, I think about 6 years.
Feels like a lifetime.
Yes. And this is our 5th book together. And I will say, I've gotten the chance to work with other great illustrators as well, but there's not a lot of stress at all for me, writing the manuscript, and once the editor sort of like signs off on it, and that sort of assumes that I'm happy with it as well to have gotten it to our editor, the great Maria Madugno in this case at Random House, who's leaving very sadly. But once she sort of signs off, I know Pete is just going to do an amazing job. It's the easiest thing. I'm just excited. I mean, of course, I want to see them as fast as possible. But I'm always excited like a little kid on Christmas morning when I see what Pete has done. And it's always, we've done 5 books together. It's always, or 4. Have we done 4? 4. We might have done
4, yeah.
Yeah. They're always fantastic. And there's always all these like in jokes in there and like little I don't know if you'd call them Easter eggs, but if kids or parents look on every page, there's always like a bunch of hidden jokes that have nothing to do with me and entirely everything to do with Pete. And they're so much fun. I mean, like for I always tell the story, the underwear dragon were just two words I smashed together and I had no idea what they would look like. I was just rereading it today to prep for this call. But on Bubblegum Bison, I was forgetting that like I had no idea what kind of environment the bison lived in. And Pete came up with this amazing sort of kind of coastal California kind of town to put our bison family. And we didn't collaborate on that at all. That's entirely Pete. And I think it couldn't work any better. And I have no idea what I ever envisioned, but I know that what Pete came up with was just so much better. And that's the fun of this kind of collaboration.
Yeah.
It is. And especially with these two books, Blue Bison Needs a Haircut and Bubblegum Bison Needs a Bath. I know this is a podcast, so it's a non-visual, you can't see, but like I need a haircut and I need a bath. Like there's this relative, this like human relationship that Scott can pull out of anything that you immediately connect with. It's like, oh yeah, we've all dealt with that, or whether we're bathing our kids or having to get a haircut or whatever. But there's even with bison or dragons or whatever it is, Scott makes this like human touch to it that everybody can relate to.
Yeah. I'm wondering what kind of things the kids hate doing will be next for Bubblegum and Blue Bison. Blue Bison needs to eat his vegetables. Bubblegum Bison needs to go to bed.
There we go. Yeah. I mean,
I like it, Jed. This is a good brainstorming session.
Let's just start. Yeah. Let's start figuring this thing out.
The three of us will come up with something great. No, but I mean, there is something, I don't want to take all or any really of this credit. Pete had that on the original drawing of the Blue Bison Needs a Haircut. He had the shaggy blue bison, and underneath it said Blue Bison Needs a Haircut. And immediately I was like, that's all you need to write a story.
Yeah, well, you figured it out. I had whatever.
A want or need.
That's it. Yeah.
And I think it's very repeatable and very relatable, and I would love to keep going.
All right. I have it. Blue and Bubblegum Bison need a podcast, or start a podcast.
I like
that.
A great picture.
Yeah.
Kids love podcasts.
Yeah.
And they just don't know how to get one off the ground. That's the only thing. This writes itself. I mean, the market is enormous for this.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Hey, I love when I have a team that comes on and they not only really respect each other, but they also, it just seems they love working together, working on a project together. And that's the vibe that I get from both you and Scott and Pete. And that's really fun. I think it's rare, and not only in children's books, but in lots of jobs where you really have fun with the people you work with. A lot of times you're just kind of tolerating them, and I work with myself. I kind of tolerate myself. What is it? Just chemistry, or is there, a secret to this sauce?
I mean, I think it's just kind of pure dumb luck. I think both Pete and I think we definitely have similar sensibilities for sure. And I think that's why we were originally paired together, which was, remains one of the great sort of decisions, that we were placed together, which was fantastic. But, I think Pete and I kind of look at how we go about our work in the same way. We want to have fun, and we want to be good people in the process. It should be an enjoyable experience. I think that's why we both got into this. I wouldn't be doing this if I wasn't having fun. And I've tried other things that weren't fun and stopped. But you're right, Jed. I mean, like you do have, I've had all types of collaboration. And in my various types of writing, and I do a bunch of different kinds of writing, there's been good collaboration, bad collaboration. And I do think it's like kind of it's a little bit of serendipity or the chemistry that you can't, inexplicable, that you can't really explain. And you're just lucky and to get it a few times in your career, and to respect it and know that it is rare, and you have to kind of preserve it. I feel it's very weird saying this, looking at Pete's as I say it, but I think I consider myself very lucky to that Pete and I have been
for sure, and it is Maria, our editor, kind of saw this, right, and she connected us, and so really it is to her to to create this team. And like Scott was saying, there's a lot of different types of collaboration in picture books and in other, creative things that we do. And not one is right or wrong. I've done, a lot of books with the author that I don't even really talk to sometimes. Sometimes I just get the manuscript and I draw the pictures, and it's great and it's an awesome experience. And then other times I really collaborate with the author, like I do with Scott, and that process is really satisfying, because I think that you get to learn each other a little bit more, and the sensibilities and kind of how each one ticks, and figuring out fun jokes or storylines, or and just like having conversation. Where I live in Los Angeles. He's on the West Coast or the East Coast, sorry. So we live far away. So there's a lot of Zooming and phone chats. Yeah. But it's cool to collaborate that way.
Pete, you were sharing with us that in a lot of your spreads, there are jokes, there are Easter eggs that are kind of in there that maybe a family won't see the first time they read it through, but they'll pick it up the second and third time. That's what makes it so much fun. We know the Scott's manuscripts gets edited. Have you ever had a situation where you drew in one of those kind of jokes that you have to dig for, and an editor come back or an art director come back and go, yeah, no, we're not going to keep this in there?
Luckily, no. I don't think, I've been pretty lucky to have, really supportive art directors and editors. And if it's something that's not taking away from the story, that's, additive, it's adding to the emotion or the comedy or another layer, then, we've been extremely lucky to have, awesome support and doing, and, setting, like we're trying to figure out, where these, bison live. And like I said, I live in Southern California. So I was like, oh, it's cool. It's like this mixture of Venice Beach and Santa Monica or something, so they've, been super supportive all the way through.
That's cool. Scott, where your humor, and where does that come? Is it just natural that you just see the world in a sort of crazy way, or do you have to really kind of work at finding humor in your stories?
I employ a staff of hundreds to come. They're all
they're just right outside your room.
They have Bunsen burners and beakers. They're all in the back room. No, thank you for the compliment. I only know one way to write, unfortunately, and this is it. And that's the way it comes out. I think, again, the shared sensibility that Pete and I have, I think there is an element of fun and silliness to everything we try to do. Hopefully, balanced with some heart and occasionally maybe a message in there. But, to me, the fun of this is why I do this. And I would love, I think there's all sorts of types of picture books, and all of them are important. And can spur reading in kids, which is ultimately, our job. Reading, imagination, thinking, but also I just want kids to kind of go to bed with a smile on their face. And I try to write those kinds of books. And humor is a nice way to get at that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And when I love collaborating with Scott, because just making the two of us laugh, like, I'm like, okay, that's good. You know, like that is ultimately the goal. Like if he and I like it and, you know, like it makes us laugh, like to me, like that as an artist, that has to be kind of at the forefront, you know, and just like cross your fingers that somebody else thinks it's funny too. So.
Yeah, in my career doing educational magic shows and being up in front of audiences, it's really weird. There are some jokes that never land, but I think they're funny, and so I keep them in the show. And every once in a while, there'll be one or two people in the audience that'll get it and see the joke from my point of view, and they'll laugh, and it just delights me. It's like the best. You know?
Yeah.
It's more fun than getting everybody in the audience laughing at the same time.
Right. Well, you know, the power of a laugh. I mean, like, I don't understand people who write like dramatic stuff or messagey books or feeling books, which are all awesome. I have a ton of them on my shelf back there. I love reading them. I'm inspired by them, but you can't, it's like a laugh you can see a kid laugh. You can't see a kid feel, you know, unless they tell you or write you a letter afterwards or whatever. So I just like that immediacy as Jed. If you've performed in front of kids, you know, if you get a kid laughing, like, oh, okay, job well done, you know, like mission accomplished. That was the whole point of it.
As a parent, like, I have 3 boys, and like, if I can just get one of them to laugh, you know, like, I'm like, oh gosh. There we go. I'm in, you know, it's like just trying to get a lot of times it lands flat. You're like, Dad, that's not, you know, if I get a genuine laugh, yes,
that's everything.
Yeah.
Well, that's one reason I really admire writers, because as you said, Scott, I'm in front of 600 kids. I do a joke. I know immediately whether it lands or it doesn't land. I have a hard time doing a show over Zoom if there's a delay and I tell the joke or I do the magic trick and I have to wait 2 or 3 seconds for the audience to react to it. I can't imagine writing a book and then sitting back and waiting. Okay, 2 years from now, I'm going to find out how kids like this.
Yeah, yeah. That is an interesting part of all this, and you just cross your fingers and kind of hope. But, you know, like, and Pete's done a ton of books. You do get some feedback, you know, you get letters and emails, and, you can see on the reviews, or comments on, you know, like the various, pages there. You can see that it's hitting, you know, even some of my less popular books that I still love, I know, like, mean a lot to a certain number of kids. And that is so gratifying, and I'm so glad that the books are out there and touching anyone. You know, it'd be great if they touch billions, but as long as they touch one kid, it sounds kind of sappy. It is, you know, worth doing. But also, you know, one thing. So, Attack of the Underwear Dragon was my first book ever, and it was my first book with Pete. And we did early on, it came out during the pandemic. It came out, I think, fall 2020. So, and we did a reading for like the Dallas public school system or something. Do you remember this, Pete?
Yeah.
And there was like 600, there was various schools, and there was like 600 kids on the Zoom. So you couldn't see any of the kids. You know, there were too many boxes. And it was weird reading the book and knowing where the laughs are and not hearing them, you know, like you had to mute. And that was an awkward sort of experience. I think it went well. It was really exciting knowing we were reading it, you know, to that many kids at one time. But, yeah, especially like doing something live and not getting a laugh is you're out there. You're out there on a high wire.
Yeah.
Do you, Scott, I'm curious with, you know, like working from home, and I know you have kids, like, do they give you feedback on things? Like, or you show them like in progress stuff, like you're like, oh, you're working on something, and do they give you feedback?
They definitely used to. So my daughter's 15, turning 16 this week. My son is 12. He could care less. My son, my youngest, Maxwell, is 9, and he is interested still, kind of. And I will run jokes by him for sure. Or he'll pitch me some jokes as like the idea for Underwear Dragon came from my son. Jed, the last book you and I spoke about was Basketball Town, and my youngest is the star of that and sort of gave me the idea for that. So I get a lot of inspiration from them. I feel like as they age, I'm losing kind of my superpower of having this in-house focus group. But yeah, I'll run stuff by them, and occasionally they'll pick up the book and think it's funny, but more often than not, they won't. Pete, do you run sketches by them?
I mean, my office is like literally right in between the two rooms, so they're constantly going back and forth, and they're at times very very opinionated, and for good or for bad, which is cool. It's nice to like remember that like we're making children's books, that we're making books for kids, and to have that like initial reaction. And Jed, something like you're saying, like the book takes a long time to get published and printed and whatever. To have like a little bit of that, interactive or focus group to me is like helpful. But a lot of times they're like, no, it's not good, Dad.
Tough crowd.
Yeah.
I'll pitch ideas to my youngest too. But like he'll go for, so it's always nice to have like a funny title. Like if I can get him to laugh at the title, I know I have something.
Yeah. My son, when he went through a phase where he was really into magic, and he came up to me one day, and there was this technique that I used to make something happen. And he said, Bob, I can't believe you're such a lazy magician. He said, there are so many more complicated ways to do that on stage. And he's showing me, and you're practically breaking your hands doing these things. And I'm like, yeah, but it's the same thing. Why would I do it that way? He's just like... So that was the last time I was asking him for his advice.
You're like, no, last time.
Everyone's a critic.
You're done. Yeah.
It wouldn't be great if they were just like, oh my God, this is the best book I've ever written. This is the funniest illustration you've ever made, Dad. You're a genius. Like, can you show me how it works? I'm so interested. Like that conversation's never happened in my house.
Yeah, that joke isn't funny. Go make me some toast.
Yeah.
What advice, we'll go to both of you. Pete, what advice do you have for young kids who are looking to get into art or illustration or any kind of creative work?
I guess a good question. I would say experience life, like go out and have life experiences, meet people, go do things, draw or write all the time. Like I bring a sketchbook, I carry it around with me for ideas. I think your ideas and creativeness comes from your experiences in life, and everybody has like everyone has a unique story to tell. So if you live those experiences, think about them, write about them, or draw, illustrate, or whatever that is. Tap into your own creativeness, and that makes it unique, and that makes it special, because every single one of us has a unique and specific story.
Yeah. Scott, what about you? Advice for kids, but also advice for parents of kids who would like to get into the arts, would like to express themselves creatively as a profession. Those parents who are their immediate reaction is, but you have to have a fallback plan.
Yeah, you shouldn't have a fallback plan. I think that's, I think if you are possessed to do this kind of work, either writing or becoming an artist, a visual artist, or, I think you're called. You can't do anything else. I know I couldn't do anything else. And it'd be great to have a fallback plan, but I'd be awful at everything else. And And I think at this age, you don't have to worry about fallback plans. But, I echo exactly what Pete said for writers, experiencing life and looking for new fun experiences and being open to everything around you and all types of people, and making friends with people you wouldn't expect who can sort of turn you on to things you wouldn't have thought about or encountered otherwise. For parents, I know my mom used to take me we lived near New York City, not in New York City, but we would always go to the city and go to museums. Even Disney World was a big inspiration for me growing up, but like going to kind of anything that can light up a kid's brain at that age. And I think reading is a great way to do that without leaving the house or spending Disney World type money. But, I also try to surround my kids with books and just surreptitiously like leave them around their room. Things, I'll go to the library and take out books I think they'll be interested in. More often than not, they aren't, but occasionally they will be, and they'll pick up some book that I just left out, 3 weeks after I left it there. So I think, just sitting down with your kid, reading with them, sitting down with them and drawing with them, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Great advice. We should tell everybody where they can go to find out more about Bubblegum Bison Needs a Bath and find out more about you. So why don't we start with you, Scott?
I think I do this every time. I kind of always forget what my website is. I think it's Scott Rothman Writer. I'm on Instagram. You can buy the book anywhere you love buying books, particularly your local bookstore, but it should be out everywhere, and it's coming out from Random House.
Awesome. And Pete, what about your website? Where can we go to find out more about you?
Go to PeteOswald.com or find me on Instagram, Pete Oswald.
We've had a great time speaking to the author and illustrator of Bubblegum Bison Needs a Bath, Scott Rothman and Pete Oswald. My friends, I can't wait for your next visit to Reading with Your Kids.
Thanks so much, Jed.
Yes, thank you, Jed.
Hey, my friends, what if your kids could learn all about emotions simply by you reading them a bedtime story? Introducing Bella Santini in the Land of Everlasting Change, the award-winning fairy tale that has captured the hearts of parents and children alike. Louise Jane from the Golden Wizard Book Award says this book is a life-changing masterpiece. In addition to Golden Wizard, Bella Santini has won the Mom's Choice Award. Get your copy of Bella Santini in the Land of Everlasting Change today. This episode is brought to you by My Sister Wants an Elephant, the Reading with Your Kids certified great read written by Lynn Podrat. This is a heartwarming and delightful children's story that showcases the determination and teamwork of Randy and Jerica as they strive to convince their mother to consider their unusual pet requests. The parents, teachers, and kids on our Certified Great Read panel give My Sister Wants an Elephant 5 stars. We think you will too. Check it out today. My Sister Wants an Elephant by Lynn Podrat. Hey, I also want to let you know that this episode of Reading with Your Kids is sponsored by Astronaut Aquanaut, How Space Science and Sea Science Interact. Written by our Dean of All Things STEM esteemed Jennifer Swanson. I love this book. How did I fall in love with this book? Well, it's published by Nat Geo Kids, so you know it is filled with amazing photography. It's written by our Dean of All Things STEM esteemed Jennifer Swanson, so you know the writing is crisp and entertaining and will grab and hold on to your kids' attention. But the thing that really helped me fall in love with this book is when I shared it with the kids in my wife's classroom. And these kids from the inner city looked at this book and they saw themselves as astronauts and aquanauts, and they got so excited to realize that they could fill these roles as grown-ups. Get your copy today. Astronaut Aquanaut by Jennifer Swanson. A certified great read. Join us right now from the beautiful state of California. Our guest is here today to celebrate her brand new picture book. It's called The Lights That Stay. Please welcome to the show, Courtney Cino. Hey, Courtney, how are you?
Hey, Jed. Thanks for having me.
Delighted to have you on. Courtney and I just had this lovely conversation about Boston and California and kids and biomedical technology and book festivals. I hope we have something else to talk about.
I'm sure we will.
Yeah. So let's start by talking about The Lights That Stay. This sounds like a neat picture book.
Yeah, absolutely. So The Lights That Stay came out a couple of months ago, and it was written inspired by my girls. I have 3 little girls. The book is about a child's inner light and how it grows and changes throughout their life. And, you think about books that are about growth mindset, positive affirmations. It's right there with those types of books. And it follows this little girl who, starts out real young and then grows up. And throughout the pages, you see her, go through different challenges and overcome them. And the idea is that she has this inner light that kind of helps her do great, magnificent things. And it's a reminder to kids to just, let them know, hey, even though things are hard today, tomorrow you can do wonderful things and you move forward. And with my girls, they're all very different and they go through different challenges in very unique ways. And so it's sort of a, just, hey, if you need a reminder of how special you are, turn these pages and hopefully you walk away a little bit more inspired that you are unique and, you're going to grow up and do awesome things.
Yeah. One of the things, as you were speaking, I remembered there were certain books that were like this that I read to my kids when they were young. And I remembered I really enjoyed them because it was such a, to use a basketball analogy, it was such an easy layup to sit there and read a book that had an inspiring message about the character and just turn to your kid and say, you have a light inside of you. You're going to be able to do great things. And I really loved it because it was just so natural and it didn't sound forced. And I think it was put my kids in a position where they could hear that message and really accept it better than if I were just to say, hey, you're a pretty special kid at breakfast.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with that. I feel like any book that can prompt a good dialogue or help the child question, oh, wait, what about me? I want to do that, or I see myself in this character. Those are awesome books. I read a lot of Nancy Tillman or Kobe Yamada to my girls. And, I'd love to have The Lights That Stay, be in that bucket, those buckets of inspirational books in people's minds. I think, when my girls say, oh, wait, look at what they're doing in the book. Mom, can I do that? And I can say, absolutely. That's a great bedtime experience with them. So 100% agree with you.
Yeah. I'm trying to think back, and I remember having dreams and thinking, oh, I want to do this or that when I was a kid. But I don't know if I ever was actually able to picture myself as a grown-up when I was a kid. And I don't know why that's occurring to me now. But as you were talking, I'm thinking that, as kids are hearing or reading The Lights That Stay together with their parents, of them seeing themselves as an adult person.
Yeah, it is. In the illustrations, Marina Samel did them, and we kind of intentionally showed different stages of a child's life just for that reason, so that kids can see beyond today, beyond tomorrow. Hey, I might be this grown-up who becomes a doctor one day, for example. And, and it doesn't have to be a doctor, but it could be an artist or just seeing them at that age, and they make that connection. Oh, this little girl on page 2 is small, but now she's, 20 years from now. I think that's kind of an aha for some kids, and important for them to have sort of this long-term view that, tomorrow I'm doing something that's challenging tomorrow, like the monkey bars, but then 10 years or 20 years from now, I might be doing something even bigger that could change the world. And always having that in the back of their mind is pretty cool if we can do that with any book.
As you're talking, one of the things that occurred to me is we hear a lot about the rise of childhood anxiety today, and there's just so many kids who are anxious and really suffering, and a lot of kids who get into puberty feel so uncomfortable with the changes that their bodies are experiencing. I think that, maybe we're not going to talk to our 5 and 6-year-olds about puberty, but we can, and while we're reading a book like The Lights That Stay, we can start talking to them about the fact that they are going to change and they're going to grow and their body is going to be different. And sometimes, your body's going to feel a little bit uncomfortable maybe, but it's all something you're going to go through it, and just helping set that foundation to give kids the knowledge that, yeah, there are going to be difficult times in your life, but it's going to change. You're continually going to change, and if you're uncomfortable at one moment, it's not the end of the world. Things are you're going to grow out of it. You're going to learn new strategies, learn how to deal with it, and I'm going to be here to help you the whole time.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, what is challenging for kids one day looks very different the next day, right? And their body's changing, or their friendship dynamics, or, as you get older, situations with jobs, or, stressors, from college or beyond. It's just, it's the idea that you are unique and you have something inside that will help you navigate all of that, even though those challenges are very different, I think is, important for kids to remember that. And also just not to always compare themselves with other people, right? Like, this person's doing this today, why not me yet? That's always like, it's a reminder that you all have your own path. Every child has their own path. They're unique to them. And, you navigate that day to day, and you overcome whatever that latest challenge is, and take the next best step, or the next right step that's for you. Right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You were mentioning, before we started recording, that you had been in a different field earlier. Did you always think that at one point you'd be a children's author, or was it just, I'm a mom now, I'm telling them stories, why don't I get it out there in the world?
It's a great question. I, for years, have had scripts, picture book scripts that I've sort of put aside on my computer in a folder. And I never maybe anticipated diving so deeply into this space, in this world, and I love it. But I always had wanted to write, since probably my 20s, picture books. And just this idea of, writing a compelling story coupled with beautiful artwork. They're kind of books unique like any other, they're unique, and only do you get that kind of coupling with picture books. So I've always wanted to do it, but I never thought I would dive so deeply into it. I come from the biotech world, and while I still love that work right now, my focus is, creating books that really prompt great conversations within families and inspire little ones.
Yeah. And you have dove head first into this. Not only are you an author, you are a publisher of Whimspire Books.
Yes, I have a Whimspire Books publishing company, so I'm able to publish other people as well. Right now, my focus is my own books for the time being. I have The Lights That Stay, and also a book called Piper's Pet Pursuit, which will be a series next year. And then 2 books that are coming out this coming fall. One is called Finally Home, and that's a military book, which it's a military book, but it's about a family reuniting. I think it's a universal theme, important for families to talk about as we're talking about what prompts good conversations. And then the second one is a silly book. There's really no deep lesson in this book. It's called Sincerely Antonia. She's an aunt writing a letter to a little boy. So that's a totally different type of book.
Oh, well, I love silly books. I think they're wonderful. And you were talking about picture books and being unique in the way it tells stories. And I thought back to the conversation we were having before about the International Children's Book Festival and biotech events, life science events that you participated at. And I realized that at those events, those companies are telling their stories with picture books. Mm-hmm. They're not, a picture of a cute little kid and the sunshine and all that, but they're very much telling their stories through pitch decks and through videos, and just like a picture book, they use very few words to get across very big concepts.
Yes, absolutely. And it is an interesting parallel, or there are a lot of similarities, I find. in a role marketing for a company in the biotech space and picture book writing and publishing, which I didn't realize how kind of similar the worlds would be in some ways, because on the surface it doesn't seem like they would be, but you're absolutely right. When you go to a big event and you're at a, conference in the exhibit hall and you see, these massive booths with images and short taglines, right? They've been very concise, or they've tried to figure out what is the most important message I want to convey on this big booth, because you have 2 seconds of someone's time. And so they're really trying to figure out, of all the things we could say, what do I want to say? And it's very similar with picture books, right? You have 500 words and you have to just really be careful about what you end up including throughout the editing process to make it the most compelling story. And then, similarly, like you were saying, the visuals, right? How are you pairing the artwork with the words, and what's the interplay there, and how is the art enhancing? So it's the same thing on a booth or a brochure, just to your point. Exactly.
Now, was that something that you were aware of as you set out to write The Lights That Stay, or was it something that just kind of dawned on you like, oh, I did this before with the biotech firm?
Yeah, I think, no, I wasn't aware of it. I think as I was starting to work on The Lights That Stay and Piper's Pepper Suit, when you're editing, you're going through that editing process and you have, maybe 1,000 words and you want to get it down to 500. That process is hard, right? It takes some time. I was learning a little bit the similarity when I was doing that. And then when we were working on the artwork for the books, realizing, oh, actually, once you have a refined story and you start the artwork process, you're still continuing to refine the story, right? And then you're also at the same time saying, oh, how is this image really going to enhance what's on, the text or what's in the text? And then you're cutting more, right? Because sometimes the words don't need to be said. Mm-hmm. I kind of learned how similar as I went along. I definitely had no idea that I'd be pulling so much of my background in that space into this.
As a publisher, I'm curious, have you set out and have you decided in your business plan, I am going to be looking for stories from authors that fit into this space, or are you just kind of open to anything that kind of like, I like this. This is making me happy?
I think the latter. Mm-hmm. And I know some publishers, focus on a very specific type of story, or, in a certain genre, or, just kind of have honed in. And I think in a lot of ways that does make sense. It's a good business practice, because everyone knows when they think of your brand, what you're delivering, and they can always rely on that. Maybe down the road, I think for now, my kind of focus is get really good quality stories and work with really high quality illustrators and bring a book to life that really is going to either, foster imagination or fuel confidence, which is the tagline on my website, really help promote good dialogue within families. So as long as it meets one of those kind of criteria, I would be open to it. I think, sometimes when you focus too much, you miss out on some things that could be really great to offer kids. And so I wouldn't want to hone in too much at this point.
Yeah. And if you just take your publisher hat and your author hat off, what is it about reading with your kids, the kids who inspired you to write The Lights That Stay? What is it about reading to them and with them that you love so much?
Yeah. So I mentioned I have 3 little girls. I have 4-year-old twins and an 8-year-old. And we read every night, and, just the time together, bonding and sitting, in the living room or on the bed, kind of, being together is, one of the most important things. But I do think, each night it's a different book. So sometimes we'll read something that's funny and you just laugh, and it's not meant to be this deep lesson. But it brings everyone together and you laugh. And then other nights when we read certain books, like What to Do with an Idea by Kobe Yamada, for example, one of my 4-year-olds, we read that a couple weeks ago, and she just said, Mom, sometimes I have ideas and they just come and go, but I think I'm going to maybe write them down now, or, kind of see where they go, because I see where this idea went in this book. She made this connection, right? And so then we talked about it. So I just think it's great bonding time, but also when I have the chance to, when I get a question out of them, that's a success, right? When they're asking a question, because sometimes kids are reluctant to share, right? So if a book prompts a question, that's awesome.
Yeah. Yes. I think sometimes that reading with your kids, in addition to all, there's so many benefits, but one of them is just a sneaky way into your kid's life, because your kids are growing. Part of their job is to separate from you. And that starts the minute they come out and into the world to be independent. But it's just so easy sometimes when you're talking about a character instead of them, and it hits on something that's going on in their life. It's just a great way to open up the conversation. And there are a lot. I remember there were a lot of times I knew that what was happening in the book was happening to my daughter or my son, but they weren't ready to tell me about it, and that was okay, because we just talked about the characters in the book, and you could see the little wheels in their head turning, and I just knew that, okay, maybe they'll come to me and we'll talk about this, and as it relates to them, or maybe I've given them enough information so they can work this stuff out by themselves.
100%. Yeah, I think with my oldest daughter, absolutely, there's been times where I kind of, as I'm hearing the words in the book, whether it be, I read chapter books with her, sometimes I'll read them out loud to her, or still picture books too. And, same thing, I'll have this recognition of, oh, she's going through this, whatever it might be. And she's hearing the same words I'm hearing, but I don't want to point out, hey, this sounds like something you're going through at school or whatnot. But I know she's kind of taking it in. And sometimes that subtler way is a better way versus hey, do you want to talk about this because we just read about it, right?
Yeah. So. Yes. And usually the answer you get is, no, I don't want to talk about it. Let's read another book.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Hey, Courtney, where can we go to find out more about The Lights That Stay and find out more about Whimspire Books?
It's whimspirebooks.com. So that's WHIMSPIRE books.com. And all the information about the books is on there. They're sold in different places, different online retailers, or directly through my website. So I'd love to have you guys check it out.
Excellent. We've had a great time speaking to the author of The Lights That Stay. Our guest has been Courtney Cino. Hey, Courtney, thanks so much for being with us.
Thank you, Jed, for having me.
We hope you've enjoyed this episode of Reading with Your Kids and will join us for the next exciting episode of the show. Please be sure to connect with us on social media, facebook.com/readingwithyourkids, at Reading With Your Kids on Instagram and TikTok, and at Jedley Magic on Twitter. Please check out our YouTube channel, youtube.com/readingwithyourkids. We'd love it if you could subscribe to our YouTube channel, give it a like, and also maybe put a comment down on your favorite video. You can listen to the show on YouTube. You can also find our Drawing With Your Kids and our STEM is Family Fun videos on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/readingwithyourkids. If you are an author, please be sure to go to our website, readingwithyourkids.com. Click on the Authors Click Here button up at the top of the page to find out how you can be a guest on the show. Being a guest, it's fun, it's easy, it gives you the chance to tell thousands of Kidlit fans all about your great kids' books, and it doesn't cost a thing. Don't let anybody know about that, though. I want to thank the folks who made today's show so wonderful, starting with our guests, Scott Rothman, Pete Oswald. Please be sure to check out Bubblegum Bison Needs a Haircut. We also want to thank Courtney Cino. Check out her beautiful book, The Lights That Stay. I want to thank my amazing team, Fatima Khan, Chris Doherty, Rory Grady, Judy Hu. I want to thank my beautiful wife for all of her support. Most of all, we all want to thank you. Thank you for taking the time to listen to the show. And thank you so very much for taking the time to make the world a better place by reading with your kids. I'll be looking for you on the next episode of Reading with Your Kids.